Thank you, Ron, and welcome everyone. I am Murli Shankar, a Senior Solution Architect here at AWS. Joining me, Sharon Lee, GenAI Senior Solution Architect here at AWS, and also Sneha Venkateswaran, GenAI Principal Go-to-Market Specialist. So we put together an agenda here, and we will start with an introduction on Amazon Nova Foundation model, giving you a sense of what these models are and why they matter. Next, we will look into the real world application and customer success stories. And so you can see how these models are driving value in the business context. After that, we will move into some live demos, showcasing its capability in action. And finally, we'll wrap up with some best practices for deploying this model, ensuring you are all set for the success when bringing generative AI to your organization. Okay, that's it. Let's dive in. So as we consider adopting GenAI at scale, it's important to recognize that key challenges the organization that typically face, generally the cost with many teams that find that current price to performance and achieving the expected ROI can be challenging at many times. And the cost efficiency is critical for scaling, critical for your performance and all of that stuff. Second is flexibility. Many a time off-the-shelf or out-of-the-box models often doesn't meet all the business needs that we expect. So team realize they need to be customized model to fit it for their specific use cases and workflow. And last, but not the least, safety and reliability. Deploying AI at scale requires a foundation that is secure, safe, and reliable. So teams need confidence that the solutions are robust and trustworthy. Understanding these challenges make us better decision as we evaluate and implement AI solutions. So let's look into some of the, the Amazon Nova Foundation models here. To address all the challenges that we discussed earlier, we have introduced Nova Foundation model, a new generation state-of-the-art foundation model that deliver frontier intelligence and industry-leading price performance. The Nova family include models for variety of needs. With this broad suite, we aim to provide the flexibility and performance needed for a wide range of business applications, all the while keeping the cost at a manageable space. With Nova, now you have a range of models that can generate text from different input types and models that can generate video and image from text. You can also leverage creative content generation models for producing images, videos, and other media. And you also have speech-to-speech model for advanced audio applications. Now, getting into some additional details here and what are all the models that we support today. Amazon Nova Micro is a text-only model for the lowest latency and cost. Amazon Nova Lite, a very low-cost multi-modal model that processes image, video, text input quickly. Then Amazon Nova Pro, a highly scalable multi-modal model that balances accuracy, speed, cost for a wide range of tasks. Then we have Amazon Nova Premier, the most advanced model, ideal for complex tasks and as a teacher for model distillation if that's something you are looking for. Okay. So each of these models generally available today and designed to meet different business and technical requirement, whether you need speed, cost efficiency, or advanced capabilities. With this range, Amazon Nova Foundation models can support everything from simple automation to sophisticated AI-driven business applications and solutions. Now we are going to dive into some detail. So I invite Sneha to present these sessions. Sneha, over to you.
Thank you, Marley. All right. For folks in the room, feel free to just chime in with any questions. I'll try to repeat the question as well so that people who are joining virtually can also hear. But hi, everyone. Appreciate the time today. As Morley introduced in the beginning, I'm Sneha Venkateshwaran. I'm part of the Amazon Bedrock go-to-market team, and I specifically lead business development for our Amazon Nova models, which is a topic of conversation today. So Morley did a really nice introduction of the Nova models. I'm going to just dive a little bit deeper into each of the models and the different families of models that we have. So I'll start with the understanding models, which includes Micro, Light, Pro, and Premier. Okay. So one thing to know with all of the understanding models is that they have been built with chain of thought prompting from the ground up, which means that they're actually very good to power agentic workflows. As Frank and I discussed earlier, agentic is really the buzzword of 2025. But what that means is that if you have complex workflows, Nova can help you break that down into executable steps and take actions on your behalf. I'll touch on this later at the end, but we also have browser action automation as well through our recently launched Nova Act as well. Many of you may be very familiar with AWS, running your workloads on AWS. So Amazon Nova currently is available as a model of choice within the Amazon Bedrock fully managed service. So with that, what it means is that it's integrated with all of the great Bedrock features that come out of the box, like knowledge bases, guardrails, Bedrock agents, all of that comes as part of using Nova on Amazon Bedrock. Okay. And then very, very important to us, and something that Morley had touched on in the beginning as well, is we've really built Nova with security in mind. So responsible AI is at the core of how we built Nova. And so while we have a state-of-the-art model, we're really thinking about responsible AI benchmarks across all areas like safety, truthfulness, et cetera. And then we also, and I'll touch on this more later, we do provide uncapped indemnification of your model outputs. So a brief view of the Nova models in terms of different features. All of these models are currently in GA. And with Nova Premier, we actually are launching the longest context window of now 1 million. But Nova Lite, Nova Pro support 300K. Micro supports 128K, being our lightest weight model. All of these models support 200 plus languages. We support 16 really, really well. And then we have support for further languages as well. And then in terms of modalities supported, Micro is our only text-to-text model, but everything else, Lite, Pro, Premier, they do have multimodal capabilities. So you can process text, image, video as inputs. The output is still going to be text. And then very important, especially because a lot of customers do want to customize the models. We do support fine tuning across Micro, Lite, and Pro. For Premier, we don't offer fine tuning, but we do offer model distillation. Yep. Okay. So in terms of model distillation, it is available both on Pro and Premier. And what that means is that for your if you want to distill if you want to use Premiere Pro as a teacher model and distill the learnings to a smaller model like Pro, Micro, or Lite, you're able to do that. So keeping the accuracy of the larger models, but keep getting the cost and latency of some of these smaller models. We just launched Nova Premier last week, so it is very new to the market. But we're super excited because this is the largest model that we have within our understanding model family. And with that, it has the highest level of intelligence. And it's going to be our most capable model for complex tasks, as well as the best model, as I mentioned, for model distillation. Again, it supports a pretty large context length window of 1 million tokens. As you can see across all the benchmarks that we did, text intelligence, visual intelligence, agentic workflows, it's really does well, especially when we compare it against our next largest model, Nova Pro. Okay. In terms of price performance, as you can see, looking at the left side here, Nova Micro is our smallest model, but it's going to be the cheapest. And then from there, you'll have higher intelligence tiers with Nova Premier having the highest level of intelligence. But of course, all these models offer fine tuning. So if you want to get a higher level of intelligence, you're able to fine tune the model and increase your accuracy. And then just quickly again, talking about AI safety, this has been really top of mind for us. And you can see some results from Chatterbox Labs in terms of how Amazon models are really leading across some of these measures for safety. You can really see that benchmark against some of the other models that are available out there. So really, really important for us, and then an area that we're going to continue to work on. So moving quickly to our content creation models, this is going to be Nova Canvas, which generates images, and Nova Reel, which generates videos. So again, all of these models have been built with responsible AI in mind. And for all of the model outputs from Canvas and Reel, we do offer uncapped indemnity protection as well. Okay. So in terms of availability, all of these models are GA. Yeah, the problem is the slides are very small here. So I have to, unless you can fix this, I don't know how to fix it. So
that's okay. They're good.
Okay. I'm sorry for the folks on camera. The screen is over here where I'm looking at the slides.
I don't want to reset the Zoom now. Let's continue.
Okay. So in terms of the availability of the models, both Reel and Canvas are available right now. The languages supported are English. And in terms of the modalities supported, both of them allow text and image as inputs. And then for output, Nova Reel is going to give you a video output. Canvas will give you an image output. And the duration of the videos, Nova Reel, you can create up to 2-minute videos right now. And Canvas right now supports fine tuning. We are looking at supporting fine tuning on Nova Reel shortly as well. Just looking at Nova Canvas, there's a lot of different features you can use it for. So you can put in a text prompt to generate an image, which would be probably the most straightforward use case, but you can also use it to edit photos. You can use it for in-painting and out-painting. You can customize images. And then all of these, in terms of the outputs, they do have invisible watermarking and then are C2PA compliant as well. This is just a really nice visual that shows the vast variety of images that can be generated through Nova Canvas. So really anything from faces that are very human-like to animation can all be created as well, and even objects. So this is a text-to-image example. You can see the prompt is a portrait of a smiling young woman with long flowing hair. She's standing in the natural light. And so these are two different types of images that are generated. Really cool to see the natural light, which is a hard thing to capture the sunlight and the shadows, which Canvas does really well. Okay. So this is an in-painting example. You put in a prompt where you want to mask the lake and you want to add a field with a fence. And so you can see in the output, the lake is now gone and there is a nice fence with grass. Outpainting use case. This is the last example I will show for Nova Canvas. But for outpainting, and this is probably going to be very popular for marketing, advertising type of use cases. But in this case, you have a coffee maker, and you want to show the coffee maker in a stylish kitchen next to some coffee, and a plate of pastries. Okay, so moving on to Nova Reel, and again, this is our video generation model. So Nova Reel allows both text to video as well as image to video. And you can provide both as well. So with it, again, you can have camera motion control and control that with text prompting. You can also, again, get the nice benefits of responsible AI from this model as well. Okay. Hopefully this shows up well on the video, the screen over here, but you can see that the text prompt is a slow cam of a middle-aged man, 4K cinematic on a sunny day, make it peaceful, and you can see Nova Reel creating exactly that. This is a nice one. You put in an image of the ocean with some cliffs, and then you just say a simple prompt, dolly forward, and you can see Nova Reel doing that as well. Okay, so touching really quickly on one of our very, very new models. Premiere is our newest, as I mentioned, we just released it last week, but we also have Nova Sonic, which is our speech-to-speech foundation model. And this is also fairly new. We launched it maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago. But with it, you basically have speech as an input, and you as an output, you get both text and speech together. So right now we support English, both an American and British accent, but we are looking at supporting more languages as well. And in terms of latency, you can see that it is very quick. So time to first audio is about 1 second, and that's very competitive in the market. You can see as we compare it against GPT-4o and Gemini, this is very, very real time in conversation. So in terms of the use cases that we see for Nova Sonic, really a lot of it is around contact center, voice-enabled personal assistants and agents. So really streamlining that process of customer support. Just a quick demo on Nova Sonic. May not work.
But I don't think the voice.
Is it working? I can't hear. That's okay.
783281.
Got it. Thank you. I'll take a look. I see there's a recent update from our
Let me start this again. 1 second.
Hi, I need help tracking an order I placed last week.
I'd be happy to help. Let me pull up your order details and recent shipping updates. Could you please confirm your order number?
Sure, it's 783281.
Got it. Thank you. I'll take a look. I see there's a recent update from our logistics partner that due to a weather delay, it's now scheduled to be out for delivery on Monday, March 20th.
Oh, but I won't be home on Monday.
No problem. Let me reschedule. Would Tuesday work for you?
Yes, that works.
Great. I've updated the delivery date for Tuesday, March 21st.
Thank you. Could you also send me an email with all the updated information?
Of course. I've just sent an email with revised delivery details. Please check your inbox.
Great. Appreciate the quick support.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help and that you're happy with the quick support. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask. Have a wonderful day.
So, yeah. Thank you. Okay. So as you can see, very natural. We're using a bidirectional streaming API, so it is very quick. And so in terms of those agent contact center type use cases can be really nice to help augment, actual real life agents to help. Okay. Oops. All right, so switching over to some real world applications and how you can use this in your particular business. So there are obviously some use cases that go across a wide variety of verticals. So in terms of where we see a lot of success with Nova, one area, and Morley had touched on this in the beginning, is really around the price performance. And so where price performance is a priority, and maybe you're not seeing that from some of the other models that you've been using, this is really where Nova can help shine. The other area is multimodal understanding. As I mentioned, you can use with Light Pro and Premiere, you can use text, image, and video. So we see a lot of interest in doing things like image classification, video understanding, a lot of, like, for example, surveillance companies looking through videos to help identify any anomalies in the videos. So the multimodal capabilities have really caught a lot of customers' attention, and is a differentiator that Nova has as well. And then the other pieces that I touched on earlier, using Nova for agentic workflows. And then, of course, you have some of the more straightforward use cases, like using Nova for translation, virtual assistant, search, text summarization, classification. All of those use cases we really see shine with Nova as well. And then I know we have quite a few financial services customers that have joined us today. So from a financial services perspective, we do see some very strong traction on Nova for things like payment clearance, and IDP, intelligent document processing, insurance claim processing, investment management, personalization, customer 360. These are the types of use cases that we see in specifically the financial services vertical. So what do customers want as they're adopting foundation models and bringing GenAI workloads to production? They really want to reduce cost as adoption grows, because they may start with one GenAI use case, but you'll always find more ways that GenAI can help streamline your business. They want lower latency, especially as they have higher throughput workloads, they need higher processing speeds. They also want to have ease of support and responsiveness from a model provider. Obviously, this is a world that's changing very quickly. So a model that you might be using 1 year ago may not be the model that you're going to be using going forward. So really having access to be able to provide your feedback and get those new features incorporated is something that's top of mind. And then, of course, we want to avoid risk while you're exploring new use cases. And this is where Nova delivers. As I mentioned, we have industry-leading price performance, and we're really built for latency in our responses. So we can support those higher traffic applications as well, but continuing to give you that lower latency. Because it's our first party model at Amazon, if you're already a customer at Amazon, you don't need to sign any other EULA to start using Nova. And there can be some nice benefits in that, just in terms of really quickly streamlining your adoption. And then finally, as I mentioned, we do offer indemnity against third-party claims for any copyright infringement, IP infringement. So you're protected from the outputs as well as the data that's used to train the models as well. Okay. There's a question in the chat.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Ron, do you want to just quickly read this question for me?
Yep, let me do this. I'm just, I might try to do something else. Monjo, I'm going to see if I could quickly unmute you so we can ask that question directly, but I don't see your contact information. There's some questions about savings and more detailed information about how Nova works with your S3 bucket and data storage. I'm going to ask Monjo if you have an opportunity to clarify that, but maybe to summarize this key question, maybe you could comment on how these models work more seamlessly with S3 buckets or other AWS capabilities, even things like Amazon Connect.
Yeah, so unfortunately, given the broad setting, I won't be able to comment on roadmap specifically, Manoj, but maybe you and I can connect after if you have his contact details, Ron, and I can certainly share what we're thinking about in that area specifically.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll try and answer any and all these questions. I know another gentleman mentioned, we'll make sure the slides and videos are
Yes.
made available. And you can use me as a central conduit for working with your AWS teams. Remember, we're so pleased to have several Nova experts here. What we can do, we being me and my Angelbeat team, is facilitate inquiries. Because again, there are people here from Sanofi, and there's a whole separate healthcare and life sciences team. We have other people here from MasterCard. There's a separate financial services team. And if you just email me with more detailed questions, I'll act as a central conduit to pull in the appropriate people to ensure that the AWS account rep, the AWS industry rep, and the AWS Nova expert can all be tied together so you can get the answers more quickly and more accurately.
Great. Thank you, Ron. Okay, so one quick case study, and we actually have Frank in the room who's from Trellix. But in terms of where we see Nova shine, as I mentioned, is really around the price performance. So one good customer example is with Trellix. Trellix is a threat detection and response platform provider. So they're in the security ISV space. They tested Nova. They were previously using Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and they saw a 100x improvement in price performance. Trellix actually did the testing themselves, and they provided the charts that you see on the slide here. But probably the more interesting one is the chart to the right, where they've benchmarked model quality versus value. And so while they were able to get maybe a little bit better accuracy out of Claude Sonnet 3.5, they were able to get a lot more value out of Nova Micro. And a comment from Trellix CTO is that they saw that Nova Micro is about 3x faster and 100x more cost effective, while providing the same decision and details as Claude 3.5 Sonnet baseline over 70% of the time. And now what's really interesting here is that they went from a Claude Sonnet to Nova Micro, which is our most lightweight model. So probably they could have, tested something like a Light and Pro and gotten better accuracy, but it's really a trade-off, right? When you're thinking about these things in terms of the accuracy, the price, and the performance, and you really have to make a decision for your use case, which ones you're prioritizing the most. And in this case, Trellix made a trade-off to give up some level of accuracy, but really get those cost savings and latency benefits for an application that was very high trafficked. So they made the decision to actually use Nova Micro, which is our smallest and fastest model. Okay, So again, think fast, think Nova. I think this is a pretty catchy slogan, but also pretty true as well. If you've used artificial analysis, which most of you if have probably checked out at some point to see the latest benchmarks, artificial analysis, as soon as every new model comes out, they're very good about putting up benchmarks across a wide variety of factors. But one of them is specifically around latency. And so there are two charts here. It's a little hard to see if you're in the room, but the AWS models are the ones in orange. So two different things. The first chart at the top is output tokens per second. In this case, higher number is better. And you can see that both micro and light are the leading ones in that category. And then the bottom one is a time to first token. So in this case, lower number is better because you want to have the model generate that first token as fast as it can so that your user is not waiting at the end. So you can see here, well under half a second, both on light and micro to generate that first response. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sharon to do a quick demo of Nova Premier, which is our new model that I mentioned in the understanding family. And then she'll take us through some best practices for deployment as well.
Oh, that was great. Let me just interject. This is Ron Gerber. Just a couple of quick comments. If people have questions, I'll keep monitoring the Q&A. Let me know. We'll try and get to them as fast as we can and make sure we can do follow-up email threads to get everything addressed. One of the comments that comes up is the cost of running these models, and we encourage everyone to look at it carefully. Unfortunately, there are a lot of FinOps. It used to be there was FinOps, and then there was AI Ops, and now there was Fin AI Ops, and now there's Fin Gen AI Ops, like all these different acronyms out there. But the point is that this technology has to be looked at when balancing, just like, and we're so pleased to have Frank here from Trellix to add some more insights on exactly what Trellix does and why it works so closely with Nova. But there are many cost issues that you all need to be aware of. There's trade-offs. I thought it was interesting when we did a previous Angelbeat event. Another company had talked about doing batch processing of their Gen applications. So if you don't need instantaneous results, it's amazing because AWS is so incredibly successful because they built these mainframes on steroids in the cloud. And that's basically what it is. So it really makes all this powerful computing available to the masses. But someone says, well, if you really don't need your output instantly, you can also balance the time when you need results. And that could give you the advantage of, let's say, more powerful models, but potentially with an output that isn't instantaneous, but still meets your business needs. So again, I just want to point out there are lots of trade-offs, and you can rely upon Angelbeat, all the experts bring together, so all of you can make informed decisions. And I know there's a question in the chat about Trellix. I'm going to defer to Frank to answer that specific question about how they use fine-tunings and how they went about evaluating Nova and choosing Nova over competing models. And we'll just defer that to a little bit, but I'll ask Frank to respond in the chat now. But let me turn it over to Sharon.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Sneha. Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Lee. I'm a senior solutions architect from the Amazon Bedrock team. I work with Sneha side by side on Nova models. So Sneha has talked about Nova Premier, which is our most capable model on Bedrock in the Nova family. So now I'm going to demonstrate Premier model in action. So here we are in New York City. So I'm going to demonstrate demo built with a Nova Premier model called Investment Assistant. So one trend we have found in a real world scenario is in the agentic workload, one single agent doesn't scale. So in order to have in order to get real insights from the real world, you need thousands of API calls. You probably need thousands of data sources to pull the data from to have the context for the model to generate the insights. This is very true for financial services industry. So with that, we need single agent doesn't scale. So with that, we need multi-agent collaboration architecture. And this demo actually showcased that architecture. Here we have an investment assistant, which is a supervisor agent. It has connection to 10 different specialized agents. And each agent has actually a specialized skills capability. For example, we have market analysis agent specialized in stock market trends, sector performance, and so on. And we also have a risk analysis agent specialized in investment risks. Now let's do a demo to see how these agents can collaborate in harmony. So here we are all, I think a majority of us are technologists. So let's ask a question: how might rising interest rates impact the growth stocks in the technology sector? So this demo is built with Premiere. One thing about the Premiere is Premiere has a built-in chain of thought. And with that, you can actually see it's calling another agent here. So this agent is the microeconomic expert. And if we can looking at here, we can actually see some of the call. The trace here, this is the call from the microeconomics insights. And here you can see it's going to call other agents as well. So usually for these types of question, because it's an investment assistant, usually for investment research, we need like concrete insights. We need concrete context pulling from authentic data sources. So this is why we have different sources, different agents specialized in that particular area. And if you're looking at some of the traces, you can actually see for this type of multi-dimensional questions, it's actually pulling data from everywhere. And if we are opening one of the response here from one of the market analysis, you can actually see some of the details. It's getting some sources, getting some data information from tool calling. So this is like an external API calls to get the insights. You can see continuously it's getting more data. Neat. So you can see the data is actually from different sources, different agents, and each agent is specialized in one area. And here we get a complete report for this question. We have a value compression. We have historical performance analysis. We have cost of capital, risk shifts analysis. In the end, we come up with this conclusion. So this is actually a demo for multi-agent collaboration. as well as in Amazon Premier, which has really deep thought, chain of thought capability. Let me quickly switch to my presentation to share some of the deployment best practice here.
Oh, I can go in here, Sharon.
Okay.
Change it for you.
Can everyone see them now? Just want to make sure you can see all the content in the virtual online viewers.
Right. I see a bunch of thumbs up. Okay, so let's talk about deployment best practices. These deployment best practices not only apply to NOVA models, but apply to all the large language models. So when we talk about generative AI workload, we talk about optimization. And every optimization starts with these stages. Everyone starts with a POC stage to identify the use case, make sure the solution works, try out the different models, and doing evaluation until you have you prove the value for this POC, and then you can actually deploy that POC to production. And deploying to production means you want to deploy it at scale. And since we're technologies, we don't stop there. We continuously doing optimization towards better quality, better latency, better cost. And with that and all the stages, we want to make sure that we are running in secure and responsible environment. And on the production, this is where price and performance matters. And this is what we have in our heart to make the NOVA models. And everyone starts with a prompt optimization journey when we talk about GenAI workload. The first step is always to understand the model capabilities. And for NOVA models specifically, we have a NOVA tech report, and we have public benchmarks. Sneha just shown everyone the artificial analysis. This is actually one of the important websites to publish those public benchmarks. And after understanding all the public information, now this is where we can actually build and prepare custom evaluation benchmarks to use to be specific to the use case. And from here, we can actually do continuously to do prompt optimization. This is where we have to look at the model-specific optimization, prompt optimization, and the parameter setting. And for that, for NOVA models, we actually have published the user guide for those. And with that, our ultimate goal is to have optimize the price performance workload running on production. With that being said, evaluation is all you need. You probably have seen the paper, the most famous paper in generative AI. Attention is all you need. But in reality, evaluation is all you need for optimization and running your GenAI workload on production. So open source benchmarks only tell half of the story. And we recommend always to build and evaluate models on grounded use case specific evaluation data set. And step 0 is to always build evaluation data set. You have a golden evaluation data set that is closest to your production traffic. This way, you can actually evaluate those models closest to your actual use case. Then step number 1 is to build the evaluation metrics. Here we have a couple of ways to build those evaluation metrics. The first one, for example, yes?
And did you capture any metrics on hallucinations from each of the models?
Yeah. So for hallucination, we actually have like the question here for people are online. The question is how do we capture metrics for hallucination? Yeah, for hallucination, there are actually public metrics you can be used. There are public open source metrics and also evaluation frameworks. Basically, you can actually use as a judge to evaluate if your answer is how accurate your answer is towards compared to your golden data set.
And how do these models match out, best practices in that country?
So a very good best practices here is to use LM jury. So you probably have heard LM as judge, right? Use LM judge to evaluate, compare the ground truth versus your response from the generation model, and compare to see and they look at the context of the model as well to compare if the model is grounded or not. So that's what first thing. But usually we have seen is one single LLM as judge can be biased. For example, if you are using Nova model, Nova Pro generate the response, but you are using Nova Lite generate as the judge. So sometimes there can be a bias because the training data set is probably similar or from the same set of the source. Right. So one recommendation we have here is to use a jury-based evaluation, meaning you have models from different providers, and they can actually you can allocate some weight to evaluate the same results. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there are a couple of good points that Sharon made. I just want to reiterate them or reinforce them as we do so many of these Angelbeat events around the country. One is just the importance of human oversight intervention. It's easy to get caught up here in all the great technology and like, can I have a bot or someone on these events and do my video blogs? I don't need to do it. But it's critically important that you have human beings architecture these evaluations. It's also consistent with some of my earlier comments about pursuing proof of concepts maybe in parallel paths so you can make informed judgments and you don't have any implicit, explicit bias going on. And in a similar sense, we were doing another event a month or two ago, and they were making an analogy back when the cloud first started, people's jobs, maybe it was previously racking and stacking servers, and then their job changed because suddenly AWS handled the infrastructure. So their job changed as a network architect to be more of a strategic architect. Where do I run my code? When do I use tools like AWS Outpost, or when do I expand my infrastructure? So their thinking changed. And I think in a similar way, when you're looking at Gen AI, it's great to look at all this technology, but instead of your job being more detailed, trying to figure out more detailed, much more limited automation tools, your job becomes more valuable and more strategic as you're an architect trying to figure out what to do, how to plan out these evaluations and see what makes the most sense in your organization. So we see, some of the same dynamics playing out in Gen AI as played out in the cloud, but in all these cases, it doesn't mean that jobs are being permanently eliminated. What it does mean is that jobs are changing. When you're a DevOps engineer today, it might become more of, again, the strategic architect, which again makes your job a little bit more exciting, makes it more potentially rewarding for you, because if you can be the correct strategic architect, learn from Sharon and her colleagues here from AWS, Frank from Trellix and others, you'll be able to get a bigger paycheck and make sure your company is more successful. Anyhow, let me just turn it back to Sharon.
Thank you, Ron, for the comment. That's exactly right. So we are thinking about the generative AI technologies. We as a human being, we're still in the driver's seat, controlling everything. So step one is really to build the evaluation metrics to guide the generative AI workload. The second step is to optimize model-specific prompts. Like I said earlier, all the models have their specific prompting styles. For cloud model, you probably have heard they actually have the XML tag in their prompt, they can understand better with the XM tag. And for Nova model specifically, they can understand the markdown format better. So it's really important to optimize model-specific prompts. And then the last step, after you have those building blocks available.
Can you share your screen? Because we had two people sharing at the same time. That might have been the confusion. Okay.
Okay, all good. Yeah, after you have all those building blocks there, now it's time to make inferences, evaluate using the metrics, and conduct some failure analysis to find where model did not work and iterate on this process.
I have a question on evals.
Yeah.
Have you done work on costing for these evals? Those are initial ones that are running up to like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, for evaluation on the output, on the pricing. Oh, yeah. So the question is for evaluation metrics, have you done cost evaluation?
Or optimization strategy.
Optimization strategy, yeah. So for this on-demand inferencing, you are looking at output tokens and input tokens. So what you really want is to, can you comprise those tokens, context window, and achieve the same accuracy? That's what you want to look at. So it's always a trade-off between the context you feed into the model and the accuracy you can get. Yeah.
That's not easy. I mean, is there something that you provide as part of Bedrock to do that? So that's a big part, right? Like, it's good to be moving from LLM judge to LLM jury, but an average eval is like thousands of prompts. 10,000 is what I'm getting as recommendation. But the cost associated with the cost of running the application during test and running the judge LLMs during test, that's like super high.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you can do is you can work with your AWS account team because we do have funding for proof of concepts. So we can help to offset some of those costs. So yeah, definitely work with your account team because we have options there.
Let me just repeat that because I'm not sure Shenna's mic was on. The point is when organizations, especially the size and scope of one of the world's largest financial institutions in the room, are looking at evaluations, even a small scale evaluation can be fairly expensive. So if organizations, quite honestly, are of any size, again, just use me as a central conduit. We can then tie in the appropriate people to see if, in fact, additional funds are available, not just if you're a startup through AWS for startups, but even for large enterprise organizations who AWS is interested in validating the proof of concept, validating the results that were talked about in terms of Nova's results, Nova's cost effectiveness, and then it'll pay off for AWS in the long run by simply funding a proof of concept. So let me know what I can do to help.
Thank you, Ron. So now let's talk about prompt optimization. Prompt optimization is always the low-hanging fruit. So just like I said earlier, each different model has different prompting style. For Nova models, you can see here, it's optimized for Markdown prompting style. So you can actually use Bedrock automated prompt optimizer. It understands the general prompting practices. It also understands the model-specific prompting guidance. It can optimize your prompt automatically. And of course, we have for generative AI workload, we have different output formatting. For example, for chatbot use cases, we always have free text or natural language as a response. But for programmatic, for example, if you want to access your agentic workload, you need structured text output. And with the Nova models, we actually support structured output in two ways. The first one is you can actually prompt your model to output in JSON. This is how it looks. And the second way is you can actually leverage tool use, which means you can actually put your schema into your tool config, pass it to your Nova models, pass to your models to generate the like response adhere to your schema. And talking about tool use, we have to talk about the function calling in NOVA models. So this is like the basic of the foundation of any agentic workload. NOVA models actually has a chain of thought, a system prompt built in. So this is how it looks like with a response from a function calling. So there is a text section that outputs the chain of thought steps, which you can use for any debugging or error analysis. And then there is a tool use section for programmatic function calling. And of course, like I said earlier, prompt optimization is always the low-hanging fruit. And from there, if you have achieved really good price performance, you can actually just stop there. But if you want to have a further price performance improvement, you can consider to customize your NOVA models. And we provide actually two ways to customize NOVA models. The first one is through fine-tuning. With fine-tuning, you can actually achieve better zero-shot accuracy and a better price performance trade-off. And this is especially true for multi-model use case. If you think about text use case, usually you can actually provide in your prompt, you can actually provide a few shots example for the model to learn in the context to generate the output. However, for multi-model, for example, if you have image input or video input, it's really hard because of the limitation of your context window, right? So this is where we actually recommend to do some fine-tuning to improve the context-specific response on the image and video inputs. And another way of customization, NOVA customization, is through model distillation. So nowadays, since we have launched the NOVA Premier, you can actually distill from NOVA Premier with your own customer data. And for model distillation, there are actually two ways. One is using your historical invocation logs. Let's say if you have used Premier or those larger model on production, you have the production traffic, production data captured. And now you want to switch to a smaller model for better latency. Then you can actually use the historical invocation logs to distill the knowledge to the smaller model. The second way is actually to use Bedrock data synthesis technique. So for historical invocation logs, you can actually get you can actually just feed the prompts into your advanced model, which is the teacher model. And the step 2 is you're going to use the prompts and the responses from the invocation log to distill the knowledge to the student model. And this is the behind scene of data synthesis available on Bedrock. So behind the scene, we will have just a limited data set. And you can actually leverage those teacher model to generate more similar prompts using the golden responses as example, and use those data to train the student model. Let me hand over to Sneha for some of the closing thoughts here.
Thank you. Can you just keep sharing your screen?
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Well, everyone, appreciate your time and for hanging on through this presentation. Just a couple of quick slides to close out. For those of you who haven't explored our NOVA models yet, please do check out nova.amazon.com. It is a website that allows you to explore all of the NOVA Foundation models. All you need is actually an Amazon account, not even an AWS account. So you can just log in with your Amazon account and play around with almost all of the Nova models. I think Sonic was just launched on nova.amazon.com a couple of weeks ago too, so you can really play around with all of them and see which ones you like before you use it for any of your production use cases. The other thing that I'll highlight, and I had mentioned this very briefly in the beginning, is on nova.amazon.com, you get early access of a version of the Nova Act model. So Nova Act is a new model that is currently in research preview that allows you to take actions within a web browser. So it can help you do things like fill out forms, submit an out of office, do some research on what to purchase online, say through Amazon.com. So all of this is built with agents that can complete any of the browser-based tasks. So it'll help you break down the workflow that you have into reliable steps so that you can get consistent results out of it as well. So very interesting thing to explore. Again, it's in research preview, so don't recommend any production workloads run it right now, but definitely something that you can play around with, and we've had a lot of customers do that already. And eventually this will be something that will be, come out of preview and will be able to use for your production workloads as well. But for now, definitely play around with just nova.amazon.com in general, and Nova Act as well. And then we'd always welcome feedback on your experience. As I mentioned, both Sharon and I are part of the Nova team. So we do value all customer feedback and we do prioritize that as well. So with that, appreciate the time.